The first guest tonight is a huge movie star.
A global superstar with hundreds of millions of fans and billions of dollars in box office.
He is the star of the biggest blockbusters on the planet like Jumanji, Fast and the Furious movies, Jungle Cruise, and so much more. The king of the box office. Please welcome the one, the only, Dwayne Johnson!
Something changed, and it wasn't announced. There was no headline declaring Hollywood done with Dwayne Johnson, no press release, and no public fallout to mark the moment. Instead, the tone shifted quietly at first, then all at once. Projects stalled and narratives flipped, and suddenly, the most reliable star in Hollywood started being discussed differently, not as the savior or the guarantee, but as a problem people were finally willing to say out loud. This isn't about one movie failing or one bad decision. It's about what happens when an image holds for too long and the industry stops playing along. This is what that shift actually looks like. For nearly a decade, Dwayne Johnson was untouchable.
Dwayne Johnson, also known as The Rock, named the highest earning actor of the year. Guy's got it going on.
Wow.
44-year-old earned $64.5 million.
Not just successful, but structurally important to how Hollywood operated. Studios didn't see him as an actor. They saw him as insurance. If a franchise needed stability, he was the answer. If a film needed global appeal, he was the solution. And if a project felt risky, he made it safe. He was consistent and predictable, relentlessly positive in every public appearance, and most importantly, he was profitable. From Fast and Furious to Jumanji, Johnson became the rare star whose name alone justified green lights. Executives trusted him, audiences liked him, and brands loved him. Hollywood rewards reliability more than talent, and The Rock built his entire career around that truth. But reliability has a ceiling, and eventually he hit it. The shift didn't begin publicly. It began behind the scenes, where Johnson's reputation wasn't just about professionalism anymore. It was about control. Control over creative decisions, control over narratives, and control over outcomes. Stories began circulating, not as gossip, but as industry frustration, documented in trade publications and anonymous executive interviews. Multiple industry reports have noted contractual protections around how Johnson's characters were portrayed on screen, including limits on appearing physically dominated. He didn't look weak and wouldn't share spotlight unless it was negotiated in advance. At first, studios tolerated it, then they accommodated it, until eventually they resented it. Because when everything bends around one star, the project stops being collaborative. And that tension came to a head with Black Adam.
Black Adam. What have your powers ever given to you?
For Johnson, Black Adam wasn't just another role, it was a statement. He spent years pushing it forward, years positioning it as his entry point into the DC universe, years framing it as the movie that would change the hierarchy of power in the DC universe. His exact phrase repeated in dozens of interviews.
I think that Black Adam got caught in a vortex of new leadership. And at that time, as we were creating Black Adam, developing it, shooting Black Adam, we got knocked down a little bit because of COVID and the shutdowns, got back up.
And on paper, it should have worked with its massive budget, established IP, and built-in fan base. But when the movie released in October 2022, something didn't land. Critics gave it a 39% on Rotten Tomatoes. It earned $393 million globally against a production budget reported at around $190 to $200 million. Profitable on paper, but short of the $500 to $600 million range many expected based on Johnson's past box office performance. More importantly, it failed to create the momentum Johnson had promised. Behind the scenes, according to Variety and The Hollywood Reporter, reports surfaced of creative disagreements and tension with DC leadership about the character's direction and integration into the broader universe. Then came the reset. In late 2022, DC Studios restructured under new leadership. James Gunn and Peter Safran took control with a mandate to build a cohesive universe. And quietly, Black Adam was cut loose. No sequel announcement, no crossover plans, and no long-term integration into the universe. By December 2022, Gunn confirmed publicly that Black Adam wouldn't be part of the initial slate for the rebooted DC universe. The hierarchy didn't change, and for the first time in years, The Rock didn't get his way. Hollywood doesn't punish failure. It punishes uncooperative failure. One box office disappointment is survivable, but when a star is seen as difficult to work with and the results don't justify the accommodation, the tone changes fast. Suddenly, articles became more critical, commentary sharpened, praise turned into analysis. Was Johnson actually acting or just playing himself? Was his brand too polished, too safe, too repetitive? These weren't new questions. They were questions people had been avoiding. Then came something entirely different. In August 2023, wildfires devastated Maui, causing billions in damage and displacing thousands of residents. Johnson, alongside Oprah Winfrey, announced the People's Fund of Maui, a relief initiative asking the public to contribute, while both celebrities pledged initial funds. The response was unexpectedly harsh. Social media erupted with criticism. Why were billionaires asking regular people to donate instead of funding relief themselves? Why did it feel like responsibility was being deflected rather than assumed? The backlash trended for days across Twitter and TikTok, with criticism coming not just from anonymous accounts, but from verified users and even some media outlets questioning the optics. Johnson later addressed it in a video, acknowledging he could have been better and that he totally gets it regarding the criticism. The backlash wasn't really about the money, it was about perception. For the first time, Johnson's carefully maintained everyman image cracked, not because he did something malicious, but because audiences no longer felt spoken with. They felt spoken at. And once that disconnect appears, it's hard to repair. What made this moment different wasn't the backlash itself, it was how few people rushed to defend him. By this point, Johnson was everywhere. Movies, television, sports league ownership, energy drinks, tequila brands, and constant social media motivation posts. What once felt inspiring began to feel manufactured. Hollywood runs on cycles, and no star escapes them. The issue wasn't that Johnson failed, it was that he never changed. Same tone, same persona, same character arc every single time. Audiences moved on faster than his brand did. The real signal wasn't criticism, it was silence. Projects stopped being announced with certainty. Roles became conditional, and momentum slowed noticeably. Even his business ventures, like the XFL and its merger with the USFL to form the United Football League, were framed less as triumphs and more as long-term gambles with uncertain outcomes. Red One, his 2024 holiday film with Amazon MGM Studios, reported costs potentially exceeding $250 million when marketing is included, one of the most expensive streaming films ever made. Early reception was mixed, raising questions about whether the investment matched the return. His live-action Moana wasn't generating the buzz Disney typically manufactures around major releases, with sparse production updates and muted marketing efforts. Hollywood didn't turn on him overnight, it simply stopped bending around him. And in this industry, that's the difference between power and presence. This isn't a downfall story in the traditional sense. The Rock didn't implode or scandalize or disappear. What happened was subtler. The industry that once relied on him started asking if it still needed him in the same way. And when that question gets asked, the answer usually isn't kind. If you step back, the pattern becomes clear. Total brand control without creative evolution leads to stagnation. Overexposure erodes goodwill, and power without adaptation creates resistance. Johnson didn't lose Hollywood. Hollywood outgrew the version of him that refused to evolve. This isn't the end. Stars like The Rock don't vanish. They reset. The question isn't whether he'll stay relevant, it's whether he'll let go of the image that once made him untouchable. Because Hollywood doesn't turn on people who fail, it turns on people who stop listening. And right now, that's the real story behind why the tone changed. The silence says more than the headlines ever could.